What's up, camp people of YouTube? My name is Ahmed, and welcome back to yet another video. Today, I want to talk to you about a film called Monica, Oh My Darling. And I must say, it was a wonderful film. I mean, the last film that I had so much fun watching was Andhadhun, and quite frankly, it was one of the best murder mysteries that I had seen in a while. I'm not going to compare the two films because both of these films are very different films, although both of them are neo crime dramas, and a lot of similarities can be said in the film, especially with the extravagantly open ended finale of both the films. Apart from that, I feel that both these films were very different and how they were treated. Andhadhun had a very different story, but in the sense that the intrigue and the mystery of the film remains throughout is something that this film does very well as well. Now, when you look at how the story is structured throughout this film, particularly, you tend to understand why this film works so well. You tend to understand that the film is well paced, it's intriguing. There is always a sense of what's going to happen next in the film, and that is something that works in the favor of the film. There is never a dull moment in the film. Never. Like, there is not one moment in the film where you're sitting there and going, maybe I can fast forward this moment, but there is not a single dull moment in the film. Within the first 30 seconds, there is a murder. You're immediately interested in what's going to happen next. The fact that throughout the 2 hours the runtime of this film did not feel like 2 hours at all, and I was glued onto the screen from the beginning to the end. And one of the reasons why that happened was because how well structured the film was, how well written the film was, which leads me to the next point quite easily, because one of the core aspects of why this film works is how well structured the story is. Like, from the beginning to the end, you kind of know who does it. Like, there is a sense of who does it, but and the audience always has the hints. Like, when I watched the second time, knowing who had done the murders, I was able to pick up on the hints much faster, even though the first time I kind of figured it out initially that this is who was doing it. So that sense, that structure that this film had, and the whole feeling of intrigue and how the film was able to keep me glued onto the screen is why I would highly recommend this film. It's a neo crime drama, so it is possibly one of my favorite genres. Throughout the film, there is this mystery of who done it for the characters. And now what happens in a situation like this is the film kind of misleads the audience quite a bit. Like, you have a feeling of who's done it, you kind of understand who's done it, but then at some point or the other you're thinking, well, maybe it might not have been this person. But despite that, throughout the film, they're able to structure the story in a way that even if you kind of have a feeling that this person has done it, you never know why. Although if you watch the first sequence closely, you understand why this person has done it. Overall, I got a very good satisfaction of watching the ending of the film because it closes out really well. It does leave a lot to the imagination of the audience and lets the audience believe maybe, okay, this person might have done it or might not have done it. But even with that open ending, you have a sense of satisfaction because you can assume a certain things, and there are not too many options as to who might have done it and why they might have done it. The final three reasons why I actually enjoyed the film was because, one, it was very well paced. Like I said earlier in one of the points that I mentioned, that there was never a dull moment in the film. There were moments that they were building towards. The film was very gripping. That happens when the pacing of the film is done really well. The opening sequence and the fact that the first quarter of the film sets up the rest of the film brilliantly, and then it just goes on from there. Like, there is not a single moment where you're just sitting there and going, why is it getting so exaggerated at this point? Where is this going at this point? And that is something that this film does so well that you're at the end of it, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Another thing that this film does well is how it has a set of well thought out characters. Like, every character is not one dimensional. There are There are layers to each of the characters, including the ones that are peripheral characters, to say that you're just sitting there and going, okay, yeah, they it's not one dimensional, and it's not like, okay, yeah, this guy is just there to fulfill a particular story. Yeah, okay, I must add at this point that there was a lot of exposition in the film, like they're just sitting there and explaining a lot of things in dialogue, but you don't tend to notice that when you're actually watching the film. While there were a lot of dialogues that explained this particular film, there were also visuals that were matching. It wasn't just bunch of four people sitting there and talking about this guy. So if they were talking about this guy, they actually showed what the person used to do, what he was doing, where he was, and that is something that I enjoyed in the film. And the final thing that I actually want to talk about are the performances of the actors that were involved. Of course, Rajkumar Rao in any film is going to give you a wonderful performance regardless of what character he's playing. Just go back and see his films and his performances in each of the films. There are very few films where you will find that his performance has been affected by anything. So we knew Rajkumar Rao was going to give a very good performance. Apart from that, we had Huma Qureshi and Radhika Apte in the film. We see a return of Radhika Apte in a Netflix production because why not, right? And at this point, Radhika Apte and Netflix should just get married because I haven't seen I haven't seen somebody dominate a platform like Radhika Apte does. And fair point to her, she does a very good job as an actor. So Radhika Apte's performance in the film was wonderful. Huma Qureshi was outstanding in the film as well. Another person that I actually want to talk about is Bhagavati Perumal and his performance in the film. I must admit, I haven't seen any of his other work. Looking at his performance in this film, I'm sure he's a very good actor because his performance as the character that he was playing was perfect. Overall, I would highly recommend that you watch this film, and I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope people watch the movie and love it as much as I did. That's been my time. Peace, and see you in the next one.